The last day of Ramadan. I'm exhausted from fasting, and I'm thinking about all the food I want to eat on Eid.
That's honest.
But then I read something that stopped me cold. The Prophet said Eid is a day of remembrance and gratitude, not just celebration.
Most people don't know that.
So, if Eid is about gratitude, why do we focus so much on food and parties?
Let's talk about what the Quran actually says Eid al-Fitr is supposed to be.
Welcome to Talk, Learn, Teach.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Talk, Learn, Teach. I'm Hassan and this is Mariam. Before we dive deep into this conversation about Eid al-Fitr, we want to ask you for two things. First, please subscribe to Talk, Learn, Teach. We're exploring Islamic practices and what the Quran and Sunnah actually tell us about them. Subscribe so you're part of this community that wants to understand Islam deeply and authentically. Second, if this episode speaks to you, share it with people in your life who are approaching Eid or who want to understand what the holiday is really about. Let's help each other rediscover the meaning of these beautiful Islamic celebrations.
And please comment below. Tell us, what does Eid mean to you? How do you prepare spiritually, not just culturally? Have you experienced a moment where the spiritual meaning of Eid became real? Share your stories and questions with us.
So let's start with the name itself. Eid al-Fitr means festival of breaking the fast, but it's so much more than just the end of fasting.
Yes, the Arabic word fitr means to break or to end. So Eid al-Fitr is the day you break your month-long fast. But the Quran describes this day with very specific spiritual purposes and divine intentions. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185, Allah says that you should complete the number of days and that you should exalt the greatness of Allah for His having guided you so that you may give thanks. These aren't random words, they're the divine framework for understanding what Eid is.
So completion, exaltation, and gratitude, those are the three core purposes from the Quran?
Exactly. First, completion of the fasting days. You fulfilled the obligation. Second, exaltation of Allah, remembering and glorifying Him with full hearts for guiding you to fast and worship. That's what Eid al-Fitr is fundamentally about, according to the Quran. It's not a random holiday. It's a structured spiritual checkpoint where specific spiritual purposes are meant to be realized.
But when I think about how Eid is celebrated in many communities,
It's primarily focused on food, parties, shopping for new clothes, buying gifts for kids, hosting elaborate gatherings, which, to be clear, aren't bad things in themselves. But the problem emerges when those aspects become the main and only focus, and the spiritual meaning gets totally buried underneath layers of commercialism and materialism. When people are more excited about the food they'll eat than about the spiritual milestone they've reached. When the clothes matter more than the consciousness. When getting gifts matter more than giving charity. That's when we've lost perspective on what Eid actually is.
So what should be the focus?
The focus should be on the spiritual reality first, and then everything else flows from that. You should approach Eid thinking, I've completed a month of worship. My fasts should be accepted. I'm receiving rewards from Allah. This is a day to glorify Him and thank Him. My community gathered with me during Ramadan, and now we celebrate together on Eid. The poor among us need to feel included and cared for. When that's your focus, then the clothes and food and celebrations all become expressions of that spiritual consciousness, rather than contradictions to it.
Absolutely, and this is something many people don't know. In Islamic tradition, Eid al-Fitr is called the Day of Reward in the Heavens. This isn't just poetic language. According to authentic hadith sources, the angels stand on both sides of the roads on the morning of Eid and call out to the believers, "O servants of Allah, walk forward to your Lord, for He is most generous. He favors you with goodness and gives great reward. He commanded you to pray during the nights and fast during the day. Now that you have obeyed Him, come and receive your rewards." The angels are literally celebrating with us because our worship in Ramadan has been accepted by Allah. And then after the Eid prayer, the angels say, "Allah has forgiven you. Return to your homes with goodness and glad tidings."
That's actually profoundly beautiful. So the spiritual dimension is real and important.
Very real, and it completely changes the meaning of the day when you understand it. You're not just taking a day off from fasting or having a nice celebration. You're standing before your Lord in prayer as part of the entire global Muslim community. You're receiving the reward for a month of devotion and sacrifice. You're being called by the angels to celebrate the acceptance of your worship by Allah. That's the spiritual reality of Eid, whether people acknowledge it or not.
What about Zakat al-Fitr? That's supposed to happen before Eid prayer, right?
Yes, and this is absolutely crucial to understanding the spiritual purpose of Eid. Zakat al-Fitr is a mandatory, specific charity that must be paid before Eid prayer, not after, not sometime during Eid, but before you go to pray. And the Prophet Muhammad said something that reveals how important this is. The fast hangs suspended between heaven and earth until Zakat al-Fitr is given. Meaning, without this charity, your fast isn't spiritually complete. It's literally suspended, waiting for this charitable act to perfect it.
Why is that? Because the purpose of fasting isn't just personal spiritual purification. Yes, that's part of it, but it's equally about creating empathy, developing genuine compassion for the poor, and recognizing that we have a social obligation to care for others. When you fast, you understand hunger. When Ramadan ends, you're supposed to translate that understanding into action. Zakat al-Fitr ensures that everyone, including the poorest, most vulnerable people in the community, can celebrate Eid with food and joy. Without that, Eid would just be a celebration for the wealthy, while the poor are reminded of what they don't have.
So, Eid is spiritually incomplete without this charity?
Spiritually incomplete, yes. The Quran and the Prophet both emphasize this as non-negotiable. Eid isn't a private family celebration where you gather your own people and leave others out. It's a community celebration where everyone participates, everyone eats, everyone rejoices together. When we forget that principle and focus only on our family's happiness and celebrations, we're missing a core spiritual purpose that's essential to what Eid actually is.
What's the difference between Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr then?
Good question. Eid al-Adha commemorates Prophet Ibrahim's sacrifice and his submission to Allah. Eid al-Fitr commemorates the completion of Ramadan and celebrates the spiritual growth we've achieved through fasting. Al-Adha is about willingness to sacrifice. Al-Fitr is about gratitude for spiritual transformation. But both are about more than celebration. They're about remembering Allah, community, and serving others.
So, how do we prepare for Eid spiritually?
Well, honestly, you should be preparing throughout Ramadan, not just before Eid. Spiritual preparation for Eid isn't something you do on the last day of Ramadan or the night before. It's the entire month of fasting, the extra prayers, the intense Quran recitation, controlling your ego and your desires, developing genuine empathy for the poor and struggling, strengthening your consciousness of Allah. By the time Eid comes, if you've been truly engaged in Ramadan spiritually, you should be transformed. You should feel different. You should have grown spiritually.
And what about the actual day itself?
The actual Eid day should reflect that month of spiritual transformation you've been through. You wake up early in the morning before dawn. You perform ablution and purify yourself. You wear clean, decent clothes. Yes, nice clothes are actually part of the sunnah, but the emphasis isn't on showing off or competing with others' outfits. It's on showing respect for this sacred occasion. You eat something sweet, dates are recommended, following the Prophet's practice, to break your fast after sunrise. Then you walk to the mosque or prayer ground, performing takbir as you go, saying Allahu Akbar repeatedly, remembering and glorifying Allah with your entire heart. You pray together with the entire community as a unified body.
And then you celebrate?
Yes, but with full consciousness and deep gratitude. You eat good food, yes. The Prophet actually used to break his fast with dates before going to Eid prayer to show that fasting is over. You gather with family and friends. You visit relatives. You give gifts, especially to children. You exchange greetings of Eid Mubarak. But all of this is done with a full awareness that you're celebrating the acceptance of your worship, the guidance of Allah that enabled you to complete the month, and the bonds of community that hold us together. Every action becomes an expression of gratitude.
So celebration and spiritual consciousness aren't opposites?
Not at all. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad explicitly emphasized that Eid should be joyful and celebratory. He said Eid is a time of joy and happiness. The Quran says in Surah Yunus, "Say, in the bounty of Allah and in His mercy, in that let them rejoice." Eid is meant to be enjoyed. But here's the key. That joy should be rooted in gratitude and remembrance of Allah, not in materialism or showing off or trying to compete with others' celebrations. When you celebrate from a place of genuine spiritual consciousness and deep gratitude for Allah's blessings, the celebration itself becomes an act of worship. The joy becomes spiritual. The eating becomes remembrance. The gathering becomes community worship. That's the difference between celebrating Eid in a way that's spiritually meaningful versus celebrating it as just another party.
What would you say to someone who feels disconnected from the spiritual meaning of Eid?
First, know that you're not alone in feeling this way. Many Muslims in modern communities feel this disconnect. The culture around Eid has become so commercialized and entertainment-focused that the spiritual meaning is genuinely hard to find if you're not looking for it intentionally. Second, know that you can reclaim the meaning. It's not lost. You can actively choose to experience Eid differently and more authentically. On the last night of Ramadan, spend genuine time in reflection and contemplation. Think deeply about what you've learned this month, how you've personally grown spiritually, what behaviors or attitudes you want to change going forward. Make a sincere, heartfelt intention for Eid, that it will be a day of authentic gratitude, a day of remembrance of Allah, a day of community and inclusion. Before you buy gifts or plan elaborate meals, make sure you've calculated and paid Zakat al-Fitr and given genuine thought to how you're going to include the poor and less fortunate in your celebration.
Can you share a different way to think about Eid?
Sure. Think of Eid as a spiritual checkpoint or a spiritual milestone in your year. You've completed a month of intense worship, daily fasting from dawn to sunset, standing in night prayers, reciting the Quran with intention, developing patience and discipline. Eid is the day you celebrate that completion with gratitude. You receive the rewards of that worship from Allah, and you recommit to carrying those spiritual values forward into the rest of the year. It's not the end of your spiritual journey for the year. It's the beginning of a new chapter, where you try to maintain the spiritual consciousness and discipline you developed in Ramadan.
So Eid isn't a break from spirituality?
It's a break from fasting, yes. That's what Eid means. It's the day you break your fast. But it's not a break from spirituality or from the spiritual journey. In fact, the spiritual lessons and values you've developed in Ramadan should continue through Eid and beyond. The patience you developed through fasting should continue. The discipline should continue. The empathy for the poor that you gained through experiencing hunger should continue. The bonds you strengthened with family and community should continue. The habit of Quran recitation and remembrance of Allah should continue. Eid is actually a reminder and celebration of all these things, inviting us to maintain them throughout the year. Many Muslims make the mistake of thinking that when Ramadan ends, their spiritual obligations end too. But Islamic spirituality isn't meant to be seasonal. It's meant to be ongoing, lifelong. Eid celebrates the month we've completed while calling us to continue the spiritual journey year-round.
Before we wrap up, what's the most important thing people should understand about Eid al-Fitr?
That it's a day of gratitude, acceptance of worship, and community responsibility. Gratitude for being guided to fast and complete the month. Celebration that our worship has been accepted by Allah. And community, recognizing that Eid isn't spiritually complete if everyone isn't included, if the poor aren't cared for. When you approach Eid with that framework, everything changes. Your celebration becomes spiritually meaningful and balanced.
So balance is really the key.
Yes, balance is absolutely important. The Quran says in Surah Al-Araf, "O children of Adam, take your adornment at every masjid, and eat and drink, but be not excessive. Indeed, He likes not those who commit excess." So Allah is encouraging us, wear nice clothes, eat good food, enjoy yourself at the mosque for Eid, but don't go overboard, don't make it extreme. The balance is the Islamic way. You can celebrate Eid with nice clothes and good food and family gatherings, but let these things flow from spiritual consciousness, not replace it. When you do that, when you integrate the spiritual and the cultural, the joy and the gratitude, the celebration and the community responsibility, you're living Eid the way Islam teaches.
Thank you so much for this conversation. This has been really enlightening. Please subscribe to Talk, Learn, Teach. We're exploring Islamic practices and what they mean from a Quranic and prophetic perspective. Subscribe to be part of this community that's seeking authentic, deep understanding of our faith. And please comment below. Tell us about your own Eid experience. What does Eid mean to you spiritually? Have you struggled with balancing the cultural celebration aspects and the spiritual significance? How do you include the poor in your Eid celebration? How do you prepare spiritually? Your stories and insights help others on their own spiritual journey and remind us that we're not alone in this exploration.
Yes, and if you're in a mosque community or broader Muslim community, use your voice to remind people about the spiritual purpose of Eid. When people are planning their Eid celebrations, remind them about Zakat al-Fitr. When conversations turn only to food and clothes, gently redirect toward gratitude and community. Help shift the culture gradually, thoughtfully, respectfully. The goal isn't to forbid celebration, it's to root celebration in spirituality. Explain to them why we fast during Ramadan, not just to abstain from food, but to develop consciousness of Allah and empathy for those who hunger. Talk about what Eid celebrates, the completion of a spiritual journey, the reward for our devotion, the importance of community and inclusion and charity. Help them understand that Eid is infinitely more than food and gifts and new clothes. It's a spiritual milestone. It's a celebration of spiritual achievement. It's a reminder of our obligations to each other. Help them see Eid through the spiritual lens from the beginning, so they develop a healthy, balanced understanding of the holiday that combines joy and spirituality, celebration and community responsibility.
Thank you for watching Talk, Learn, Teach. As Eid approaches, may you experience the deep joy and spiritual fulfillment that comes from genuine gratitude. May your fasts be accepted, your prayers answered, and your Eid be filled with authentic joy rooted in remembrance of Allah and gratitude for His endless blessings and mercy towards us.